Hello, my name is Mónica Lopez. I work with Centro Humboldt in Nicaragua and I'm part of Southern Voices Network.
Hello, I'm Herbert. I am the National Coordinator for the Civil Society Network on Climate Change, which is affiliated to the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, and I am also the facilitator for the Eastern and Southern Africa region of the Southern Voices Network, just like Monica is the facilitator in the Latin American region for the same network. Now we are here in Kenya, particularly here at the Masai Ostrich Resort, because of a conference which has been organized by PACJA, the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, with two aims. First of all, looking at the COP18, which took place in Doha, and we've been reflecting on the outcome to say what is it and what are the implications for Africa. And we have been privileged actually because we also had colleagues from, like Monica, from the Latin America, and we also had colleagues from the Philippines, just to get their perspectives as well. So it's been a reflection workshop. At the same time, it's also been an opportunity to look at the post-2015 development agenda, which is something that we think is necessary in the context of climate change. And so we just want to give some highlights of what has been happening in the conference.
Okay, so regarding the outcome of COP18, as you know, recently happened in Qatar, we had a very interesting discussion with PACJA. I can see that the analysis is very similar between what Africa is thinking and what Latin America is thinking. For instance, regarding the Kyoto Protocol, though we congratulate that there is a second commitment period, we know that the ambition on mitigation is very low. We are very unhappy with the amount of emissions that are covered by the Kyoto Protocol, and also that under LCA we didn't achieve almost anything on mitigation. Also on finance, we have a similar analysis because we are quite clear that developed countries don't want to give away all the money they promise. We are very far away from reaching the $100 billion promised by 2020. So this is a great concern for both of the continents. But also I would like to say that we have found out that the process within the Green Climate Fund is very important because it's being shaped and defined. So we are thinking that it's important civil society gets involved in this process to engage in it and to achieve that the designing of the Green Climate Fund, their mechanisms, are covering all of our expectations. But also we are very interested in promoting national adaptation plans because, as you know, some guidelines were already achieved during last two COPs. And also we are very interested in pushing forward this 2013 year, the establishment of an international mechanism for loss and damage.
Yeah, and now building on that, as civil society, we also think that in as much as we don't seem to be seeing a lot of progress in the UNFCCC processes, but there are also opportunities for engagement. We cannot sit back and say, well, then maybe we just leave the process. We have to continue to engage. And one of the platforms that we see to be very critical and strategic moving forward is the defining of the development agenda by the global community beyond 2015. And so the climate change will become very important in that context because everything that we've been trying to do, if we look at, for example, the Millennium Development Goals, we see that climate change has a lot of impact in each of the goals that we had set. And so as we are defining the new agenda, it is important that we should reflect climate change very clearly, and we should be able to have things that we can measure to say, okay, if this is how we want to move as a global community, how is climate change going to impact, and therefore how should we plan appropriately? So that's why this conference has helped us, and we actually have been discussing on how best we should articulate these things. So for example, the issue of environmental sustainability is quite key already in the discussions. But the problem so far has been that civil society networks involved in climate change have delayed in involving themselves in this process. So we think this should catalyze interest among us as networks involved in climate change to identify opportunities that we can engage various processes starting from the national level, to be able to link with our governments, but also to see what is happening in terms of the international process, like the high-level panel, which will be meeting at the end of March. And we also have other processes, including the General Assembly coming up in September. There are so many things that we can find out about what is happening so that we are not left behind in terms of planning for our future, because this has to do with our current generations but also the future generations. So there are so many opportunities, and if we are not involved, then we might end up actually having, we might end up not getting anything at all, as we are pursuing the UNFCCC route of engaging and influencing global positions.
Yeah, I must say in Latin America we agree also with this analysis made by Herbert. It's true that climate networks have engaged in some sort of delay in the process. We have been having our own discussions in Latin America, and we have defined that we need to open up the scope of our work. We are working on climate change, but we also need to work on the post-2015 agenda, on the definition of the Sustainable Development Goals. So for us it's very clear that we need to push leaders to have this discussion with us nationally. So even though we might have some reserves with the deadlines of the process and all that, we think that we must request our national leaders to have this discussion with national platforms.
Yeah, so just to say that there are so many processes happening at the same time. So it is very critical that we should be able to identify those. For example, the national consultations which already started, we have the opportunities to influence our governments, but we also have opportunities to engage the high-level panel itself by identifying who are involved in our parts of the world, but also looking at the other processes like the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, looking at the thematic working groups. There are so many of them that are actually involved in various ways of consulting various stakeholders. So let's make use of those opportunities so that we have the best outcome come 2015, and we do the best that is good for the communities and the people that we work and seek to serve.
So I just want to say that I'm very happy that my African colleagues invited me to come here to Kenya to have this discussion, and I will bring back all of this information to Latin American networks, and I think this is what we wanted to report to Southern Voices networks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.